knowledge. I decided to change that. It used to be, what was it? Something about knowledge is power. But I changed that because we really don't have the knowledge of God and knowledge about Him and what He wants us to be and so forth. And so I wanted to change it because we perish for lack of knowledge is really not our statement. That's God's statement. But knowledge is power is not necessarily so. Some people can know too much and then not know enough or not know what to do with it. Wisdom is a greater thing to have rather than knowledge. So I just changed that. We perish for lack of knowledge, meaning God's knowledge. And that is a part of a Bible verse that God is using to tell us that we don't know what we should know. And so tonight, I just want to talk a bit about how I came to know God, because it's very significant. It's necessary to know who He is and what He does for us and what He expects out of us. Of course, the world would be wonderful if we operated according to what He says. And it's not necessarily operating to a level of laws or rules, but if we just try to be like Him, the whole world would be better. And one day that is going to happen. I wanted to talk tonight about my experiences with God, because many people don't believe that God is real, but I'm here to tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is real and everything about Him is real, and what He uses the Bible for to give us ideas about what He is really like. And He's trying to let us know that if we are like Him, we would be much better off. When I came to know the Lord, and I had some instances that dealt with God and God showing me things in my early life, but I was 27 years old when that happened, and it happened right after my mother died. But, I haven't told too many people, but my mother died just like I dreamed that it would happen. And I started dreaming about her dying when I was about 8 years old. And I can remember from about the time that I was maybe 6 months old, I remember some things that happened in our house, not knowing, but I remember a lot of what happened to me from the time that I was 2 years old. And most people don't seem to have that ability, but I think God gave me that ability so that I could see from that point, that early in my life, just how much He was with me. And when I was 2 years old, I used to have a dream. I used to have the dream that the world was ending, and I could see the world ending, but I didn't see it from the earth, from the land. I actually was viewing what was happening from the sky. And that may still seem a little strange to you, but the Bible says that we're all going to be taken from the earth. Those who love God are going to be taken from the earth. And we are going to go to spend some time with Jesus and God in heaven. And then we will be back at the end of what they call the tribulation period to clean up the earth, and Jesus will rule the earth for 7 years. 1,000 years. What am I talking about? 7 years. The tribulation is 7 years, but He's going to rule the earth for 1,000 years before He allows evil to come back on the earth. Now, sometimes we seem to think that everything is just going to be fine, and so forth. But you have to look at what's actually happening in the world. To me, this is about the dirtiest place in the world to be. I mean, people are so mean. The governments are so corrupted. They cheat their people. They get into government so that they can rule and take advantage of people. People, I'm telling you, my life will show you. God took me through a number of steps to show me the truth about what's happening. And some of the people that you laud and applaud, I'm not going to call their names tonight, but some of the people that you laud and applaud are some of the most awful people that you can ever imagine. They will do just about anything to get where they are and to do what they want and to make it appear to people that they are big shots. You know, and I like to use that word big shots because that's what they really think they are, big shots. And so they take advantage. They have the rule over you. And so therefore they take advantage of you. Like the Navy Hill Project. They were just trying to push their way over you somehow or another. And for one of the very few times in all of Richmond history, the people on council who should have voted against it, except for Ellen Robertson and the girl over in the 7th District, I always forget her name, but they voted for it, you know. And so you can see that they are not looking at our best interest. Tell me, talking about how dirty people are. Why would people who live over in the far West End, now over in the far West End, they never have any changes to their neighborhood. Far down Monument Avenue, Park Avenue, and they don't have any changes over in their neighborhood. They haven't for years and years and years. They have some huge mansions over there, some big houses over there. I remember a friend of mine who they must have thought she was crazy because she didn't go along with what they wanted to do, but her husband worked for a big company here in Richmond, and she used to always get into the politics of things, and so she used to let us know what was really going on. But she lived in one of those big houses over there, and her gas bill was only like $175 a month. Yet if you lived in Highland Park or you lived in Barton Heights and you lived in one of those big houses, your gas bill might be $1,500, from $175 to $1,500. And nobody seemed to question that. Nobody seemed to wonder, well, what's wrong over in Highland Park? What's wrong in Barton Heights? And they never made a change. And some of those people now that they're moving black people out now, and they're taking over their houses, and the city is pretty hard on anybody who has any problems with their house, and they will fine you or take you to court or anything like that if you don't do exactly what they say and how they say it. And then the people who move into your house and take your house over and get it for less than it's really worth do not have to pay taxes for the next 10 years, even though you had to pay taxes. You couldn't get any money from the city. But the fact that you don't have to pay taxes on, let's say, a $240,000 house. Now the houses over in Highland Park and in the Barton Heights area are actually selling for more than that after the people get in and do the repairs. Some of them are selling for over $400,000 at the sales price. But if you got one, the assessment rate right now for the city of Richmond is like $1.20 for every $1,000 or every $100. I've forgotten which one it is. But if you multiply, let's say 1.20 times $2,400, you would wind up with approximately $4,000 or so a year for your taxes. And so people that lived over in that area, even though they had the lower rates, could not afford to pay that, and they didn't do anything to help them. You know, when I was on council, and I'll talk about that a little bit, I guess, but when I was on council, I worked with people who didn't have much at all, and I was happy to help them. But those people needed money to fix their houses, and at that time, back in 1994, 1995, 1996, they could get money, hear me, they could get money given to them directly if they applied to fix their house from the city of Richmond. From the city of Richmond. Now, what they did after that in order to cut people off from being able to get money from the city of Richmond directly is that they said you had to be a nonprofit organization in order to get some money. So you know what that did? It made all of the other companies like Ellen Robertson's, I've forgotten the name of it now. She had a nonprofit organization, and so did HP Rapid was. And then so did the other place down in the Barton Heights area, her good friend, and I've forgotten her name, but they also came up with a nonprofit organization. And then nonprofit organizations started just jumping up all over the place. And most people don't know how to do that, how to even become a nonprofit organization, but I do. I do because I work for the State Department of Consumer Affairs, and I worked in charitable organizations, which nonprofit organizations are charitable organizations. And that what they did was, it's a simple thing to do, but most people don't know how to do it, so they have to pay somebody, like a lawyer, maybe $2,500, that's ridiculous, to do it. And then they had to pay $600 to IRS, Internal Revenue Service, in order to be a nonprofit organization, and you had to pass all the rules rules that they had and so forth. But what that did was it stopped regular people from getting their own money in a sense, because it was their taxpayer funds. And although some of the funds came from the federal government to fix up the houses, now the city gives the money to nonprofit organizations and not directly to people who really need the help to keep their houses up to par and also help them to pay their taxes. But a simple thing that the city of Richmond could have done to help everybody in neighborhoods like that where the incomes are not that high was to provide insulation, because the insulation would have knocked down the gas bills. But see, the city didn't want to knock off the gas bills or to lower them or to make them lower if you put in insulation, because they were getting paid for the ridiculous high gas bills. And of course, if you didn't pay your gas bill, they turn your gas off. And then if you didn't have gas or water or something, they could put you out of your house. So you have to look at who's doing what, who's coming up with this. And I can tell you for a fact, and I will use this name, and I will use it often. What's his name? Now I can't even remember what his name is. He's not worth remembering to me. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. But the fella that used to own all these stores in the city of Richmond, and you can check now that he doesn't own any stores in the city of Richmond, or he says he doesn't own any stores in the city of Richmond, but he may own the building and not the facility itself, I think. And then you know what they did? They took the information off of the website for the assessor's office, so you can't find out who owns how many properties or whatever. They won't let you find it. Now, they did that right up until a year and a half or so ago, and then they stop you from being able to see who actually owns the property in the city of Richmond. And many of these places are going into LLCs where, in essence, they make themselves a corporation, a personal corporation, so you can't find out who actually owns it. But there are ways to do that too. I worked in a number of places in the state. But what's happening is that we are living in a world full of people who are just trying to get everything that you have and keep everything that they have and just treat you like dogs. See, sometimes, I'm telling you, we perish for lack of knowledge. We perish for lack of knowledge. People don't even know that the big organization called the Illuminati have decided already years ago that no more than 500,000 people, no, that's 500 million people, could live in the whole world, could live on the earth. So you don't know what they're doing when they come up with something called coronavirus. You have no idea. They make that virus in a laboratory, and somebody let the virus out. Do you know you guys don't hear me, I'm telling you, they let the virus out in China. In China, you can only have like one child because they have over 1 billion people living in China. But you can have only one child. So every time a woman gets pregnant after the one child, the child is aborted. Every time a woman has a baby outside of that first one, the child gets aborted. Can you imagine how God feels about that? Just think what he's thinking. I have made this baby and I want this baby to grow and be all that he can be for me. And they kill the baby. How many babies are actually, I need to look that up. How many abortions do they have in China every single year? But now you've got this virus going there. They're killing all the babies, and they're saying that they want to reduce the whole population of the world to 500 million people. That's less than 1 billion people. Go check it out. If you don't believe me, go check it out. But you've got God here saying, oh my goodness, how can you be so mean? Remember what he did to Sodom and Gomorrah. I guess they won't have any babies because the same sexes were having sex, so there weren't too many babies had in Sodom and Gomorrah. Every time I think about that doesn't make any sense. But you got so many people in America, in the world, just trying to get money, trying to be the richest person in the world, and not doing anything or giving really back to people at all. They're trying to take everybody's land. Here in Richmond, it is awful. And if you have not seen what's going on, you must be asleep. Over in Church Hill, those people are coming in there with the okay from the city of Richmond to just take and pillage, and it's almost like a war that they have going on really all over Richmond, but really so much so in Church Hill, where they're finding ways to take people's property any kind of way that they can, and they're then making these houses worth a lot of money simply because they must have somebody in their pockets at City Hall. And did you see your mayor, because he's not mine, your mayor on television with Mike Bloomberg? Did you see that? So it already tells you that this boy, I can't call him a man because he is not thinking about the people in the city of Richmond. He is out scalavanting, as my mother used to say, scalavanting with Mike Bloomberg, who can probably put some money in his pocket so he can run for governor. Can you imagine the stuff that's happened under this boy while he was here in Richmond as our mayor? And you do not know all the things that's happening. You don't know a third of the stuff that's happening in the city of Richmond that you would, if you were a regular, normal person, you would be angry about. You should be angry about. But those are some of the things that I know are happening. But I want to get back to how I'm here and why God wants us to work together, to know him. You can't work with somebody if you don't know God. You can't work with somebody who does, because you're going to have different ideas. You're going to be thinking different. But God put us here on this earth because he cared about us. He cared about us so much. And he wanted us to succeed so much that he sent Jesus Christ, think about it, to earth to be a man like we are. And so because he's a man like we are, he knew the temptations. He knew all of the reasons why you could give a lie or cheat or whatever. But he never did. He never did. Because he said, I always do what I see my Father do while he was here on earth. And I always do what he tells me to do. So he was hearing God and he was seeing what God was doing. But he wanted us to succeed. So because sin could only be erased by blood of a person or thing that had no sin, the only one to do that was Jesus Christ. So he went and allowed them. Oh, if you only understood how all that went together, and it's just too much to tell. But how he went to the cross and died for us. Before they tried to use goats and sheep and bulls and so forth, but it didn't work. The only thing that could keep us and clear us of sin was the blood of Jesus Christ. And that's why we take communion in church. You can take communion anytime, but that's why we take communion in church, is to remind us of what Jesus did for us. And so when he came into our lives and made us a new person, then we are supposed to act like him. But I'm telling you, it is getting so far away. We are getting so far. Even churches are getting so far away. Yeah, I wish I could make you understand, like my 6th grade teacher used to say. She said, I wish I could bore a hole in your head and just push the information in it. And my 6th grade teacher taught us the Bible. She taught us all the books of the Bible, and we had to learn them in school, and we didn't get any reward for it either. We just had to learn them. We learned Bible verses. We talked about the Bible and what was in there. And I'm so glad that happened, because it helped me throughout the rest of my life to do that. But when my mother died, like I told you, I knew how she was going to die from the time I was 8 years old. And every time the dreams showed me that I was going to hear something fell in the house, and I was going to come running to see what it was, and there she would be lying on the floor. Well, that certainly happened. I was upstairs, she was downstairs, and she was cooking breakfast. And I came down the steps, running down the steps, and I saw her lying on the floor. And I already knew what was going to happen because I had dreamed it so many times. And they took her off. They said, pronounced her dead right there on the floor. But what happened to my mother the summer prior to when she died is that she came back home, because she used to go on a vacation every year, and I'd stay home with my children. And she was so different. I said, Mom, what happened to you? She said, Shirley, I got saved. And when she got saved, she was just different. So after she died, I said, I don't know what she had, but I want what she had. I wanted to be like my mother. I wanted to be the kind person that she was. Now, she was kind before, but there was a difference, and it was a difference that could be readily seen if you knew my mother. So when she died, I decided that whatever she had, I wanted it, and it came from God. So on Easter Sunday, after she died like on March the 30th, on Easter Sunday, 1974, I told the Lord that I didn't know what I needed to do, but whatever I needed to do, I wanted to do it. I just wanted him to take over my life because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't, and you don't either. Told him I didn't know what I was doing, but for him to help me. And I surrendered to him, and I gave myself a baptism, and it was real funny because when you go read the Bible, you'll find out that the people actually baptize themselves. They're the ones who dip themselves in the water. But I gave my life to the Lord, and things began to change. But I still could not get over my mother's death. I used to be under that lady. I'd be holding onto her leg everywhere she went when I was a little kid. I'd have a fit if she went someplace and she didn't take me with her. I loved that lady. And so I was at the point of about to have a nervous breakdown because of my mother's death. And I was lying in the bed. I already gotten saved, but I was lying in the bed, and I was just crying uncontrollably. And I felt like I was about to have a nervous breakdown. And I said, Lord, if you're God, if you're really there, I've given myself to you. And I'm not praying to any other God. I'm praying to you. If you're there, stop this pain that I'm having. Stop all this crying and never seemingly able to get over this. About the time I said the last word about getting over this, the Spirit of the Lord came into my room. You guys can say anything you want to say, but I know God is real. I know the Holy Spirit is real. I know Jesus is real, and I'm trying to relate that to you. The Spirit of the Lord came into my room. It's like I could see him coming through my window, but I didn't see a body. I just saw the curtains move, and I began to feel the coolness of the touch, and the feeling went through my whole body, from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet and out my toes. It felt so good. It was so relaxing. It was so wonderful to be touched by God, and always knowing from that moment on that God is real. He does hear you when you cry out. He does know all of your problems. He does come to you. Oh, to know that was just enough. But when the wonderful feeling, and it felt like snowflakes going all through my body, just tingling and calming me and making me feel wonderful all inside. The pain and the anguish hit me back in my head again, and I said to the Lord, Lord, it's coming back, it's coming back. And then the feeling of the snowflakes going through my body hit me on the top of my head again, and I woke up the next morning. Now, I have to tell everybody, I was an honor student from the first grade. I always questioned everything. And I ask so many questions, people get tired of me. But they don't answer questions right. They don't teach it right. So I have to find out what it is that if I really want to know. If I don't want to know, I just read the book and take the test. But if I really want to know, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And so after I saw that there was no particular problem with that, I said, Lord, I need to know. I need to know. And he let me know from then on that I would not have much to even be concerned about. He was there. He was with me. He was my guardian. He was always there with me. He said, and I don't know if I saw it before then in the Bible, but he said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I'm always there for you. And he really is. And sometimes it doesn't seem like he is, but sometimes he lets you find your way on your own, meaning he'll let you find your way back to him because you haven't asked him. Very often we get to the point that we are trying to please men or man rather than God. And when you get off on that, he'll let you stay out there with that for a while, let you find out how well that does for you. You'll find out it doesn't do very well at all. And that's what people are doing when they run for some office and they vote against the people. You're saying, I want you to vote for me, but I don't want to do anything you want me to do for you. And you shouldn't do that. But that was how I got to know for a fact, beyond a fact, that God is real. I'll never forget it as long as I live, and I always want to tell somebody about it. Sometimes people tell me, "Ooh, you talk about God too much." Now, I could not possibly talk about God too much. He's the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but he's the greatest thing that ever happened, and he didn't just happen. He's always been there, and he's always been there for you if you don't know him. All you have to do is to ask him to come into your life and then surrender to him. Just say, Lord, I don't know what to do. Let me tell you, I used to smoke, and he didn't stop me from smoking either when I was 27. I smoked till I was like 32. From the time I was 15 to the time I was 32. So I said, Lord, I don't see in the Bible where, and I used to read my Bible all the time, I don't see in the Bible where it says that you shouldn't smoke, but it was in there. It says you should not fool with your body, which is the temple, your temple. You shouldn't mess that up. You should take care of it. And so when I saw how he wanted me to take care of my body and to keep it clean so that, because see, the Holy Spirit lives inside of us, to keep it clean for him, I said, Lord, well, I really, really want to stop smoking since I see it now. You don't want me to smoke? I don't want to smoke. I really don't want to smoke. So, Lord, I don't want to smoke, but I can't stop. It tastes good with a cup of coffee. It tastes good when I'm talking on the phone to somebody. It tastes good when you get ready when you get up in the morning and you don't want to eat anything and you have a cigarette. I said, Lord, but I don't want to do this. So, Lord, I want you to stop me from smoking. I was 32, 1986, June. I said, Lord, I don't want to keep smoking, but you can stop me. So I'm just going to keep on smoking. And when you stop me, it'll be just fine. And we can go from there. So 3 days later, I realized that I hadn't smoked for 2 days. That was in June of 1986. And I have never smoked again, nor do I want to, nor does it bother me if somebody else is smoking. So I'm telling you, God is real. He does what he says. He means what he says. He's the greatest thing that there is. He's better than a husband. He's better than a wife. You can talk to him all the time. You can tell him anything you want to. He already knows what you're going to say before you say it. But he likes for you to direct your comments to him, because that means that you know that he is there. One time I asked the Lord, I said, if you already know what I'm thinking about, then why should I pray? And immediately the word came back to me, so that you'll know where you get everything that you have from. Oh, that was too much. So I have learned to pray now, but I still don't pray as much as I should. But I learned something today in regards to prayer that means that when you're praying and you're praying in tongues, you know, the enemy doesn't know what you're saying. So you pray so that they can't know, but you still get all of your everything that you need done, not just done for you, but done for your city. You see, God did not put you on this earth just to do things for yourself. I mean, he could have left you. Oh, let me tell you that, because I forgot that. Do you know? I want everybody to hear me that's listening to me now. And if you'd like to call in, the number is 646-7176. 646-7176. But do you know that you actually came from God? How do you think you got here on this earth? How do you think that God, that you happen to get with your mother? You think it's just by chance? No. God knows exactly where he wanted you. He put you there. He knew what your mother and your father was. And some people are saying, well, my daddy never was around, so how come he did that to me? Because he gave you strength. You got strength you don't even know you have, people. You have the abilities that you don't know you have. Some people have to be put with a mother and a father, but some people can come in without a mother or a father. Even they said Melchizedek, which was a priest, did not have mother or father. But God knows what he's doing. You don't think he does? He knows what he's doing. But you came from God. You were the only way you can get a spirit. And see, let me just tell you, you're made up of a body, a soul, which includes your mind and your emotions, and a spirit. You have a spirit. When you die, your mind and emotions go someplace else, as well as your spirit. But your body stays here. If you don't have a spirit, your body does not live. So you can have a soul, but you can't have your soul without your spirit. You being you, that's what your soul says, this is me. This is the kind of person that I am. But you have a spirit which really should be tuned into the Lord. And you can learn to live with your spirit who has all good things in your spirit. Now, there are some evil spirits, but they decided to leave God and go off on their own. So then they got to be evil spirits. There's a lot to learn about that. But I can't stop talking about God. I can't stop talking about what Jesus did on the cross for me. I cannot stop talking about how wonderful God is to me. I can't stop doing that. If I had a husband, I would be talking about my husband all the time. Or if I had children, which I do, and I talk about them a lot. But if I have God, and I do, I'm going to be talking about God. So if you don't like me talking about God to turkey, I am going to be talking about God, because I know that these things happen to me. He's real. He wants to be with us. And he wants to show us who he is. He wants to have a relationship with us. He wants to talk to us every day. And I had such a wonderful last few days, because there is a problem that the people have in the city of Richmond, and they don't even know about it. 99.9 of the people in Richmond don't even know that certain people at City Hall and other parts of contractors and so forth are cheating the people out of their tax money. You pay your tax money and they take it and put it in their pockets. They don't put it against the taxes that you owe. And something is really strange about the way the people on council are acting. I have told them about this for the last 4 years or so, and they don't seem to mind that your money is being taken. They don't seem to mind that if the money is being taken, that the money does not go into the treasury for the city of Richmond as well. So that means we aren't getting as much money as we should be getting. And then they think that the people still owe that money when it's been paid in a lot of cases, and nobody is doing anything about it. So even the people who are the lawyers for the city of Richmond have not done anything about the situation. And I have written to them and let them know that somebody has to be taking the money, because the money is not showing up on the accounts of the people in the city, but they do nothing. Now, they might handle mine and say, okay, well, you can prove to us that you paid the money, so therefore we're going to fix you. But what about all the other hundreds and thousands of people in the city of Richmond who had their houses taken because somebody was cheating them at City Hall? Why do they want to keep them there? Why does the city council want to keep them there? Something is wrong. And so I'm telling you that now, because it's going to come out sooner or later. But God let me know this week that something would be done, and I assume that it would be done soon. I have this little thing. I don't have a butterfly, but I usually wear some kind of butterfly pin, or I have butterflies all over my house. But it's a thing that says that there is going to be change. There's going to be transformation. A butterfly transforms from a worm into a beautiful thing. And so I always like butterflies. But I tell the Lord sometimes, let me see a cardinal, or let me see a butterfly. I just want to know you hear me. I just want to know that you're there, and he is all the time. I know that, but it's just wonderful. It's like getting a Valentine's Day box of candy when God shows you that he loves you so much, and he loves each one of us, even you. He loves you so much. And so the other day I said, Lord, show me what to do. Tell me if I'm doing the right thing. And show me that you're here, that you hear me, that you know what I'm going through. And day before yesterday, the Lord let me see a cardinal. Do you see cardinals this time of year? Not usually. But yesterday, of all days, yesterday, I went out to throw some foods at the cats. They aren't my cats, but they got left there. And here comes this beautiful white butterfly. It's February, people. It's February. Butterflies are not out in February. I know it was 60-something degrees, but that still doesn't make any difference. That butterfly was out there. And he stayed around for a while, all tripped, flew past me and so forth and so on. I know God was thinking of me yesterday. He's thinking of me today too. But yesterday he showed me, oh, what a wonderful gift it is when you know that God is thinking personally about you. I said, how wonderful this is. So I know what's going to happen. I know that when I pray something to him and it's in his will, that he will give me whatever I ask for. But I'm not asking for myself. And I know that the reason that I'm here in the city of Richmond is to watch out for other people, to be there for others when they cannot be there for themselves, when they don't know the rules and the regulations. And I do. I'm supposed to speak up for them and tell them what's going on and give them some confidence that things could change. But so after I gave my life to the Lord, I was sitting on my bed one day, about a year later, and I just heard this. I know it might seem strange to you, but I'm just telling you the truth. I'm sitting on my bed and I heard, Richmond, Richmond. And I said, what was that? And I looked all around to see who said that. And I of course, didn't see anybody. And so I just kind of passed it off. But I started getting this awful yearning to be here in Richmond. Now, at the time, I was working for IBM. And, things were going okay. But, after my mother died, what's the use? But I had to be here. I got this. I just had to be here in Richmond. And so finally, after about 2-3 more years, I came to Richmond because I heard the word again once or twice even after that. And I came to Richmond by myself with 2 kids, didn't have a job. I said, Lord, what am I going to do? I don't have a job. But you told me to come here, so I'm here. And since I'm here, I'm not going to be concerned about it. I bought a house before I came here. And then the Lord, after a year and 3 months, a year and 3 months, in March of 1979, I found a job with the state of Virginia as a cost accountant. Now, usually the state of Virginia don't have cost accountants. They might have regular accountants, but not a cost accountant. A cost accountant is used when they're making something and you have to add the cost of all the pieces and whatever else goes into it so that you can come up with a price that you can charge people and make a little profit with it as well. So I was the only person who was a cost accountant, so I got the job, and it was good because I was making the same amount of money I was making at IBM for the state of Virginia. Anyhow, it was with the Department of Corrections. And I'll never forget. They asked me to go back in the complex where they made desks, the prisoners did, and so forth. And I had to pass by the prisoners when they were all out on the field, wherever they went, so that they could get some exercise or whatever. And I walked through there, and almost 95% of all the men that were incarcerated there were black men. Good looking black men. I said, Lord have mercy. Why is this? I know now why a lot of them were back there. But it was so sad. And the other thing is that the guards were doing all the trying to talk to me and whistling at the guards in the place. But that was my first job. And then all the jobs that came after that had to do with government. I think I worked there, and then after that I worked for Henrico County government as an office manager, and then I left there and went to the Coliseum, where I was the assistant finance director, and why I know what's going on down at the Coliseum, and why I know why the city isn't using that facility like it could be used with the Spectacor management that's running it. And then I went to work for Internal Revenue Service. I even changed how your tax return. I changed your tax return. I got paid for it too. But people don't know that. And then I went to work for Department of Consumer Affairs, where I saw such ridiculous stuff going on. They still don't need the Department of Consumer Affairs. It's just a way that they put people that they wanted to put to work. They don't put black people to work, but they put the people they want to work to work. And so they had this lady, her name is Blakemore. I'm sure it's changed by now because she keeps getting married to people. But she was some helper to Douglas Wilder, so he made her the director over consumer affairs, and she just had a high school education, and she was a white lady too. But she got that position not because she earned it, not because she knew it, because she didn't know anything at all. She was pathetic, and but she liked to try to correct any kind of grammatical problems that you had when you wrote a letter. It was just ridiculous. But they didn't need it at all. And every Friday they had a party, and sometimes they brought liquor in the place. And they got mad at me. I said, well, if we got all this work to do, which was all of the people who wrote in and decided that they wanted to make a charitable organization, so we would make sure that everything was correct and that they were following the guidelines of the Solicitations Act for the state of Virginia. And that was such a mess. Anyway, they got mad at me because I came up with an idea that would keep them, keep all of the files off the floor. They said, well, you can't do that. They all told me, that's not going to work. And it did work. And so since it worked, they still never gave me credit for it. But I did get a piece of paper from Lawrence Douglas Wilder indicating that I had come up with this idea. But they never really gave me any credit for that. And it changed the way they did business. And they got mad at me because I came up with the idea while I was still doing all the work there, although it wasn't work. It was just moving papers. The Retail Merchants Association could have done that. They didn't need the state of Virginia to do that, but they were giving the woman a job, so they gave her a job. Then after that, I only have about 5 minutes, but then after that, let's see, I started my own little business, and then I wound up running for city council, and I was placed on city council. And I knew, if I told you that story, maybe I'll tell you the next time, but that was an amazing thing that God did. And, you know, a lot of times people want to make jokes about you because you follow God. But he's the only person to follow that knows where he's going. Why would you want to follow anybody who doesn't know where they're going? He knows where he's going. And as I told you last week, because Richmond is so filthy with lying people and people who have put themselves in power, like Venture Richmond, have put themselves in power. Change your bus routes, decide to tell you what to do at the farmer's market, have taken over your train station, they're just into everything, and using your money. And so I'm saying to you, there's just so much more to tell. But I want to tell you about that because I want you to know that God is really in love with you. He really is. And you may say, well, I'm too bad. You know, I'm talking some of those people you're talking about. But God can change your life. He can make you everything you need to be. He has a place for you. He has something for you to do. Otherwise, you never would have left his spirit. But I want to tell you too, last thing, is that if you want to know God, it's right here. It tells you what to do. In Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10, it says that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. That's Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. Know this, God is in love with you. He's with you. He wants to help you. He wants to do everything that you need to do. He wants to stop men from hurting you. And I'm talking about people in high places. He abhors people who love to hurt people and just take from you everything that you have. But you're going to find out that if you don't begin to speak, to pray, to love, to understand, to do what God is calling you to do, that you're going to help people find the hurt that they don't need. Just want to let you know that hopefully I'll be here next week and God will have something else to tell you, but I just want to finish telling you what I've learned from God. And it's so much, it's so important to know who he is so that you can know what to do in your life. So next week, hopefully I'll be here to see you. I think I shall. But until then, good night and God bless you all.